My name's Michelle Kreell, and I am here to do a program about animal shelters and fostering. I'm from the Baypath Humane Society. We are located in Hopkinton, Massachusetts, which is a little bit over an hour from here, so I imagine you guys have not been. Have you been to any animal shelters? Ever? No, but you probably go to some a little more local to you. I will tell you a little bit about myself. I've been a volunteer at Baypath Humane Society since 2013, so I've been there for 10 years now. I am a member of the Massachusetts Animal Coalition. I am also a member of the Professional Humane Educators. I was trained in the national acclaimed Kids Initiative program, which is kids interacting with dogs safely. And it was once I did that training that I decided that we decided as a group at Baypath that there was a big need for getting education out into the community. So I started the Baypath Educates program, which is now me going to libraries, schools, community centers, or whatnot, doing various programs. Today's program is about fostering and about animal shelters. I do a kids actor interacting safely with animals. I do animals in your backyard. I do animal sheltering. There's lots of different programs that I do. In addition to that, I've also been a foster a mom of my own of, it says 80, it's up to about 100 now, including several specialty dogs, either very, very fearful dogs. I've had blind dogs, I've had paralyzed dogs. I've had deaf dogs. I've had lots of dogs. I also have my own dogs. I have chickens. I have beehives. I'm a beekeeper. I used to be an assistant animal control officer in my town, which is the town of Westboro. I used to be a pet groomer in Westboro as well. And when I was younger, in my late teens, early 20s, I was also a pet store associate. So I've been around animals and dogs for a very long time before I started fostering and volunteering at Baypath. These are two of my rescues. This is Laney. He was rescued from Louisiana. That's Marley. He was rescued from Amazon. I do have another rescue at home and another other dog at home who is 15, just turned 15 last week. Those are some of my animals. You see Lane and Marley here. Down on the left is my newest rescue, Kyra. And up there on the left is Chuka. He's the 14-year-old, and those are my bees and my chickens, just so you get a little bit about me. So I'm here from Baypath Humane Society. I'll tell you a little bit about us. We were founded in 1977, so just about 45 years ago. The way we came about is we had an animal control officer in town and a lot of locals who were, who had a real issue with the strays that were around town. They would be collecting strays every year, and they didn't have anywhere to put them or anything that they could do with them. So in 1977, the animal control officer, a lot of the Hopkinton selectmen, and a lot of the local townspeople got together, and they raised funds, they raised volunteers, they got the whole community involved. They leased some land from one of the local utility companies, and 100% volunteer we put Baypath into play. And so we've been there since 1977. Let's see, I'll tell you a little bit about us. We are a nonprofit organization. We've been, again, I said, it says 40 there, but for 45 years we've been serving the community. We care for over 1,000 animals a year, involving anything from local strays or animal owner surrenders, or other networks across Massachusetts. We do a lot of out-of-state transport. In addition to the animals that we rescue, we do a lot of community outreach events to schools, kind of like what I'm doing here. A lot of public events, a lot of local fundraising. We also offer some free public learning series in Hopkinton. I'm getting all tangled up in the microphone, sorry. At the Hopkinton Public Library and the Hopkinton Center for Arts. And we also offer resources for pet guardians, our adopters, and we also do some holding for local animal control. We're a really, really tiny shelter. We're only 1,700 feet of indoor space. But we do have a lot of other things to offer. Catio, which was built by a local Eagle Scout, and it's a room that's outdoors. It's all kinds of, toys and ramps and all kinds of stuff for the cats, and they can get inside from the indoor cat room to the outdoor cat room. We have a donated trailer. We have places for the animals to eat and sleep. We have places for the volunteers to do their jobs, and everything that we need for the animals. As small as it is, we still make sure that we have space. At Baypath, we consider dog behavior a very serious business. We tried to customize all the care and stuff for the dogs and the cats. I do a lot of stuff with dogs because I am a dog foster and a dog handler more than cats, but this applies to cats too. So we all do enrichment activities. We offer doggy playtime, outdoor co-housing, which is putting animals together in pens outside if they get along with each other so they can play, socializing with people, taking them on snifferees, which is walks where we bring the dogs like out to the woods and they can sniff everything. We have puzzle toys, stimulation. We do solo activities with the dog. We have a Baypath dog behavior team, which is an advanced group of our volunteers that will do things like work on project dogs. A project dog might be a dog that has some behavioral issues. That's just not everybody's dog. Like everybody can't just take this dog for a walk. Operation Stranger Danger, all kind of stuff. So at Baypath, we take everything very seriously, and I think we're really a great shelter. But why really do we need shelters, rescues, and fosters? The reality is that there is about 70 million homeless and feral animals in the United States. Approximately 7.6 million pets enter into shelters every year. What do you think? And that's a lot of pets, huh? Yeah. So now the problem is there are too many animals and not enough homes. The statistics, some of these slides are a few years old, so I imagine that most of the things that I have written down, they're even increased now. But the statistics is that there are over 1,250,000 cats and dogs in shelters just today in the United States. Over 60 million cats live outside in the streets. We have over 6,000 shelters and humane organizations in the United States. Sadly, somewhere between 4 and 5 million animals are euthanized every year. In Massachusetts, we have more than 300 rescue organizations and shelters. So shelters are really scary places, right? And there is something that we have that's called shelter shock. And this is where, so in a shelter, even a great shelter like I consider Baypath, it's loud, it's scary, it's not really a fun place for animals to be. The noises are off, the stress level goes high. So it can be a very stressful place, and some animals will go into what we call shelter shock, and they can get so shut down that they will actually physically shake. Some will stop eating, some will stop sleeping. It can really affect their overall health. So this is where foster families can sometimes help come in. So fostering, as I said, even in the best circumstances, when a great shelter like Baypath, it is known that having a dog or a cat or an animal out of a shelter, they can do much, much better in a home environment, place where they can stay comfortable till they find their forever home, maybe even just a place where they can set up just because they're recovering from an illness or an injury. It doesn't have to be for a long-term reason. The science all says, this is all blah, blah, blah data, but the science basically says, and it's been proving, and there's an ever-increasing body of research that says animals do much better in a home environment. In a shelter, the dog's stress level goes, and the cat's goes way, way up. In a foster environment or a home environment, even a short term, even if you can get them out of the shelter for, a day, 2 days, 3 days, there's a vast decrease in the amount of stress, and different scientific things like cortisol levels and stuff like that come into play. But it is also proven that once they're out of that environment, literally as soon as they go back, their levels go right back up. So the idea is really that we really want to keep them out of that environment if possible. So for our program, when I started at Baypath in 2013, if I recall, I was one of 8 dog foster families, so that wasn't a lot. We had we had slightly more cat foster families, cat and kitten foster families, but at the time I was one of 8 dog foster families. But in 2015, we started a more formalized program. We started listening to the science. We started listening to all the experts saying that having a foster program and having dogs out of the shelter. So way back in the day, it was almost seemed like it'd be better to have the dogs at the shelter, right? Because if you are trying to go in and adopt, you want to go in and see, you want to go to the shelter and pick out that puppy like you see it on TV, or you want to go to the shelter and pick out that kitten. And while that's all great, we now know that it's much better for the animal to be out of the shelter if possible. So now we do it a little bit different. If we can get the animal into a foster home, we make other arrangements for you to meet the animal. So you still get to meet the animal, but it's not walking in and going cage to cage to cage. When we've grown too, so now we're up to probably somewhere around 50 active foster families. We have probably over 200 in our database, but we have 50 at any given time doing it. Last year in 2022, I just happened to pull off the statistic from our town for our annual report, but we had 418 animals in foster for last year. So I mean that's really awesome. So out of 1,000 or so of the animals that we had, nearly half of them got to go into foster, so that's pretty great. And we're always paying attention to new data in sciences and that sort of thing. Our foster families, right? So we provide, they have to provide a safe place for dogs who have trouble in the environment. We've kind of already gone through this, right? They might help dogs learn new skills or cats learn new skills. I always say dogs, and I apologize. We foster many cats as well. As a matter of fact, all of the kittens, litters and stuff that come into Baypath, they all go into foster care. So we never have mothers with litters of kittens at the shelter ever. They always will be out in foster care until the kittens are ready to be weaned and neutered or spayed. So we provide the appropriate socialization for puppies and under-socialized animals. And most importantly, what fostering does is it provides valuable information about the animal, so we know what kind of home to put it in. So when I have an animal in my home, whether it's a dog or a cat, I'm learning everything about that animal. I'm learning, does that animal have a prey drive or a play drive? Does this animal get along with other animals? Would this dog want to chase cats if he was adopted into your home? Would this dog want to chase chickens? So all kinds of things. Is he afraid of kids? Is he afraid of people with hats? Does he bark at the mailman? So the more things that we can learn about an animal by fostering him, the more information we have to give to potential adopters, so we can get that animal into the correct home. So the fosters that we need, and I imagine the shelters around here are all going to tell you the same thing. It's not one size fit all. We may need homes that just have adults or teens or no kids. There may be a reason for that. There may be animals that we just don't know enough information about. So we might be hesitant to place an animal with some unknown things into a home with small children. Or there might be dogs that have a lot of the herding dogs that be knocking over little kids. Maybe you don't want to put them in a home with like a 2 or a 3-year-old. Pet-free homes, some animals need to go into be the only pet in that home. Some dogs might be reactive to other dogs. And so this is a situation. Other dogs might get along great, so it doesn't necessarily matter. There's dogs or cats that might need to be placed in a home where someone's frequently at home. They may have some separation anxiety, or they might be super destructive but can't be crated for some reason. So you want to put that animal in a home where someone's home all the time. Fenced-in yard, it's a bonus, but it's not necessary. The first 5 years, maybe, that I was a volunteer at Baypath, and probably 40 fosters in, I didn't have a fenced-in yard. I do now. There are dogs or animals that may need it. They could have a very high they might be a big flight risk for whatever reason, or they might be afraid of a leash, for say, like some dogs, or are too afraid to walk on a leash, so they might need a fenced-in yard, but it's definitely not necessary. You never need foster experience, but you do need patience. You can foster puppies, senior dogs. Sometimes senior dogs really, really crumble in a shelter environment and they just need a quiet place to go. Sometimes they're doing okay in the shelter, but they just need a little bit of a break. So maybe they just take a vacation. Sometimes if there's a big snowstorm coming and we just don't want to see 5 dogs or 5 puppies stuck in the shelter when we know there's going to be a 2-foot blizzard because you're afraid of, getting in and out. So maybe we just have someone foster them for like a weekend. Medical and special needs. Obviously, we talked about animals that struggle in that environment, animals with behavioral challenges. So at Baypath, and hopefully most of the shelters in this area as well, we always offer support to the foster families, food and medical, any supplies that you need, leashes, crates, bowls, food, treats, whatever you need. We always offer assistance if you're having difficulties with the behavior of the animals. We're a phone call away. We have trainers on, some of our staff are trained. We also have trainers, lots of volunteers for us are trainers. We have a big foster network that like to help each other out. We have a foster Facebook page that we share ideas and bounce off stuff off each other, of difficulties or just kind of fun stories even. For example, if I was fostering a dog and he had a vet appointment, but I had to work that day, or my son was in a play that day and I just couldn't make it, maybe one of the other fosters will volunteer or one of the volunteers might take it. So we really do set you up for success. And we have lots of online campaigns to promote your dog. So your dog's not getting stuck. You're not getting stuck with this foster dog for long. We are very, very motivated to put that dog or that cat into a new home. So we are promoting that dog online, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, our website. These are the concerns that people always tell me, especially when they find out that I fostered, somewhere in the range of 100 foster animals. They always say things like, I work full-time. Well, we talked about that. If you work full-time, we're not going to put a dog with separation anxiety or a young kitten or a puppy in your care. I don't have the space. Well, some things, a Great Dane or a Siberian Husky might need a lot of space, right? But a mother cat nursing a litter of kittens, they really just need a quiet room, a laundry room or a bathroom that you're not using. So they might just need that. Would it be expensive? In our case, Baypath would cover all your expenses. So anything that came up, you wouldn't be responsible for. I'm going on vacation. Well, that's a good one. If you know you're going on vacation next week, maybe you don't take on a long-term foster now. Or maybe you say, I'm happy to do it, but I can't take them from a week from Friday. We work with you. I mean, we definitely always want to set you up for success. We talked about the yard isn't fenced in. This is the biggest one. They all say, I would fall in love and I would want to keep them all. So all of those dogs in that picture, with the exception of Chuka, were my foster dogs at one time. And I did not keep any of them. I still know all of them, but they were all my foster dogs. And you do fall in love with them. But the reality is that you don't always want to keep them. You love them, you treat them like they're your own, but at the end of the day, when they're ready to go to their own home, it's a great feeling for you because you know they're going to a home that someone wants them. Like if I get a foster in, I can keep him or her. Like it's fine, I have the room, I have the space, I have the love, but I don't want that dog. If he goes and gets adopted, it's to someone who wants them. But there is those situations where someone who does foster an animal decides to keep them. We call it a foster fail. That's just what it's called. In 100 fosters, yes, your librarian has already told me, in 100 or so fosters that I've had, I've only foster failed 2 times. With Lane right here, who I've had now for over 10 years. And I just recently foster failed a couple of months ago with an 8-month-old absolute heathen puppy that I'm not quite sure why I did it, but I foster failed with her. So it's been a long time happening. And it's really not an awful thing. It's just, it doesn't happen as much. Like shouldn't be your concern. But the bonuses of fostering, that is my son when he was very young, holding one of that little puppy was blind. I had blind Doberman brothers. They were 9 weeks old when I got them. But it's how great you feel when your foster finds a new home, right? There's nothing like it, especially when you get to meet the people and you know that this is gonna be a great thing. You saw in a previous photo that I actually maintained a relationship with a lot of my former fosters. That photo was me on one of the Baypath fundraising walks called the Paws for Claws, and I had all of those dogs and former fosters walking with me for that fundraiser. Watching a shy dog gain confidence, watching a blind dog learn. My son Sam at the time taught both of those blind puppies how to walk up and down stairs. They taught them how to walk on a leash. They learn empathy, responsibility, maturity. I mean, that kid was always into lacrosse and football, and he was like big and tough and popular around the kids, but he was like a little meatball when it came to the dogs. He was just so sweet and so nice. The shy ones, he would sit in front of their crate and just play his video games just so the dog would feel comfortable. He's now a sophomore in college. And so much older than in this picture, but he actually, for his college essay, his whole college essay was about fostering and his whole life of fostering. So that alone, as a parent, makes fostering like so worth it. It's awesome, actually. Couple of my success stories. I know I'm probably like speaking so fast, but typically I have like so many people here, and there might be questions and stuff, so my apologies. These are just some of my success stories. On the left here, Rustin. He came in with a litter of 5 or 6 maybe. There was a whole litter of pups. But they all came in older. They were like around 6 months old, and they had been feral. So they had to be trapped and caught. So they had no socialization. They were all very timid and did the feral dance. He may have been the worst of the bunch. And the rest of the family did get adopted out. He stayed with me. He wasn't mean. He wasn't shut down where he was in a crate, but he just kept his distance. If he wanted a little bit of affection, he'd come up and touch you. But eventually, one of the folks that adopted his brother kept seeing him on the website, and decided to adopt him. So now he has a great home with his brother. Fast forward to 5 years, and both of those dogs are doing fantastic. They can go off leash. They go hiking in the woods. They go to the beach all the time. They have a really great family. This little guy in the middle, that is an actual coffee cup. It's this big. That's how little Mac was. He was one of a litter of a mother dog with puppies that I had. And Mac was the runt, and his mama just thought something was wrong with him. So she was constantly trying to pull him away from the litter and hide him around the house. So I just would see her, and there'd go Mama running through the house with little Mac, and she'd put him behind the crate or in another room or in a corner or behind the couch. And so I intervened for a little bit. I stepped in. I dropper fed him for maybe about a week. He gained weight, and because I was sitting on the couch for a whole week solid, I also gained weight. But when he got a little bit bigger and I brought him back to his mom, she did take him back on and continue to feed him. And we talked about my blind puppies. Both of those guys went to great homes. I kept in touch with both of their families for the whole time they were alive. Sadly, they didn't live very long. They only lived 1 8 years. They were the result of very poor breeding, puppy mill breedings, but they had fantastic home while they were around. Another success story of mine, that's Lady G. She was a paralyzed little bulldog puppy that I got. Again, I think she was 9 weeks. She might have been 8 weeks. But again, she went to such a fantastic home. She had her challenges because she was paralyzed. She didn't know she was paralyzed. It didn't affect her. It didn't slow her down. She could get to anywhere that she needed to go. But some of her challenges were things like we had to be careful if we had her outside because she'd be dragging her legs, so we had to make sure that she didn't get chafed, right? So it was something, so we bought her a little bag to drag around. She was incontinent. She had no control of how she used the bathroom, so we put diapers on her. But the way her legs were shaped, the diapers would always slip off. So one of the things my son Sam did is he, was a creative little guy, and he went and got from like some old stuffed animal that he had, but he, what do you call those, suspenders? He got like a little suspender thing, and he made her hooked to her harness, the little suspenders to her diaper, and lo and behold, suddenly we had a dog that could go anywhere in the house because now she was diapered. And she's in a great home right now. I talk to her family probably once every 3 or 4 months, and she's doing fantastic. She's big now. She's a big old, bulldog now, but she's doing fantastic. So a foster parent or family provides a temporary home for pets before going to their forever home. And I threw this in here because it's just sometimes that foster home is really the very first stable and loving experience that an animal gets. A lot of these animals we get in, we don't know their history, and some of the history that we do know is pretty bad. So sometimes that first step before their forever home is the first good experience that they have.